Okay, who likes to be in charge of their life? Who wishes they could control every part of their life when the time they wake up to time to go to sleep? I know I do, but unfortunately, not true. Hate to break it to you, you can't control everything. You can try your hardest, things are going to happen to you outside of your control. The unexpected is going to happen. Things that you wouldn't even imagine happen, the unimaginable. At the worst time, the best times, things are outside of your control. But that's not something to fear. You know, naturally, we fear the unknown. It's human nature. We fear the unknown. We fear the unexpected. We fear what we can't control. But I'm not afraid of that. You shouldn't be afraid of it either. Once you accept that life happens outside of your control, that the world that you woke up to this morning is not the world you're going to go to sleep to tonight, and it can be vastly different tomorrow when you wake up. Once you accept that happens and that the world is going to change around you, the only thing that you control is how you react to that. Once you accept that it's your reaction that matters, not what happens, you end up in a better place, and you'll end up in a different place and a better place than when you woke up. I say that because the unexpected, the unimaginable happened to me. The worst day of my life by any means, on December 16th, 2010, resulted in the picture you see up there on your left. The worst thing that happened to me, by anybody's guess, happened, and I couldn't control it. I didn't choose it. I didn't have any control over it. I was a Marine. I was in southern Afghanistan, a place called Helmand. At the time, President Obama called in the State of the Union the most dangerous place on the planet. I was in a Marine infantry unit, out in the middle of nowhere, getting shot at almost every day. Every day we went outside and walked around, were in danger of stepping on IEDs. Members of my squad got shot, got blown up. Everything that I knew about this world was changed in the face of violence and misery that is war. On that morning of December 16th, I went into a compound with myself, 5 other Marines and sailors. We were clearing it out. We were looking for IEDs or weapons caches, just doing our job. At that point, I was near the end of my deployment. I knew what I was doing. As I thought that morning, I had one foot out the door. I was ready to go home. That foot never made it. It's still in Afghanistan. But I went in, and we cleared it out, and I walked in. We walked around. We found a couple IEDs that morning. We dug them up, blew them up in place, and we thought we were done. We were like, job's done. Let's go home. Let's go home. And by home, I mean a dusty tent floor in a mud compound. But as we were walking out, we were walking through, and my left foot stepped down, and the ground gave out a little bit. I had a metal detector with me in my left hand. Everybody there knew what they were doing. We had an explosive detection dog there. I was doing everything right. And looking back, I'm confident that I did everything I could have. But guess what? It's out of my control. I didn't put the bomb there. I didn't choose to. I made my steps. I had no way to avoid it. I stepped down instantaneously. Ground gave out, and I was up in the air, blacked out for a split second, came down, and what at the time I thought were my legs. In retrospect, I didn't land on my legs. But I lay on the ground there, dust around me. I looked down. I could see the sole of my boot on my chest. I knew at that moment I probably wasn't in great shape. There might be something wrong with me. In the haze of it, in the pain, the confusion, just started screaming in pain, just intense pain. Luckily, all my Marines, my corpsmen, my guys were there. They knew exactly what they were doing. They got on me. One of them grabbed my arm, held it, my good arm, held it and said, "You'll be okay. Just stay there." They got the helicopter to come. They got on the radio. They started putting tourniquets on my legs, bandages, the whole works, instantaneously. At the meantime, all around me, the Taliban started shooting at my guys, and so there's a firefight around. But even through that, they remained calm and took care of me. But I ended up on a helicopter, the picture you see up there, and I was flown. I was out of the battlefield in a blur of pain, confusion, and then over the next few days, weeks to come, drugs, surgeries, hospitals, from all the way around the country, medevac planes and helicopters, eventually landing in a hospital in Maryland. Now that was all a blur. The problem is I woke up one day look down, and I'm a guy with no legs. I'm a guy missing fingers. Now, what do? I didn't choose this. It wasn't in my 10-year plan to be in a hospital bed with no legs. Life happens. There's nothing I could do about it. I couldn't change it. There's nothing I could do about it. No matter how hard I tried, I could sit there and cry and scream and be angry. Wasn't going to grow my legs back. Unless somebody's got a better trick than me at this, my legs are going to be gone for the rest of my life. And that's such an extreme story. Obviously, I'm standing here on metal legs. I'm standing without fingers. It's such an extreme story of what life can happen. But it's the same for anybody. Anything can happen to us. How many of your people here have been in a car recently? Exactly. How many car accidents happen every day around this country, around this world? And everybody here is susceptible to disease. We see it right now, whether it's Ebola or cancer or anything. You're in danger of anything happening to you. And if you worry about it and go, well, I'm going to prevent this all from happening, it doesn't matter. You're still susceptible to these things. Life happens, whether you choose to or not. But when you realize that anything can change in a matter of seconds, and it doesn't have to be as big as losing a limb or being up in a wheelchair. You can be in that car, and that car could break down, taking your schedule for the day out. Or you get a cold, and that takes you away from your studies or whatever it is. Life happens around you. Accept it. Move on. It's easy for me to say, right? I'm standing up here. Thankfully, I've had the best medical technology and therapists that have helped me move on. But ultimately, it comes down to it's your reaction. It's what you do when life happens to you. Story for me, kind of about a year after my injury, I was in San Diego doing my rehab, and I went down, and a friend of mine, Nico, said, hey, come down to this mud run. Check it out, there's some guys I know doing it. So I went down in a wheelchair. I might be the only guy in history that goes to a mud run in a wheelchair, but, And I get there, I show up, and he says, hey, you're in it, let's go. I'm like, yeah, hey, I have no legs, right? And he's like, no, you can do it. So I had my legs in my car. I had to get my brother to go get my legs from the car because it was too far for me to walk. This is what I'm thinking in my head as I'm about to start a 5K mud run with 20-something obstacles or whatever. And I don't know, somehow I just made a decision, hell, I'll try it. Maybe I'll get a couple hundred meters. Maybe I'll go as far and do 1K. It'll take me a while, but I'm not going to finish the whole thing. I'm going to do it. Went down, starting line went, and I started. And I promise you, I was the slowest guy to ever do a 5K in the history of doing 5Ks. But I took one step in front of the other and did all the obstacles and did the entire 5K. And once I was on that course and saying, all right, so it happened to me. I have no legs. I'm a guy doing a course. But as long as I keep going, I took one more step. 3 hours later, I finally finished the course. Now, I was exhausted, and it was probably not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, but I'm apt to, as Mr. Felix will say, do stupid things. But I made the choice of saying, life happens to me, I'm still going to do it. I got out there, and it was painful. It was not easy, but I did it. And it took me forever, but that's how I reacted. I went back a year later, did the same 5K, did it in an hour and a half. Came back, did it the third year, just this last year, and that's me running it up there in costume. Did it in less than an hour, same course. It all started with one step. It was reacting, saying, take that first step, get out there and do it. Life's going to happen to you, whatever it is. It's how you react and how you respond that matters more. It's weird for me and I'm going to steal a quote from a good friend of mine, Melissa, who's missing she's missing one of her legs as well, got lost in Iraq. She said, I've done more on one leg than I've ever would have done on two. Now, she said this, since that quote, she's gone on to become a 3-time world champion in triathlon. She's finished an Ironman and is about to have a baby any week now. And she said that before. She's gone on to do more things. Being in a position where you respond. You don't just sit back and let the world revolve around you. You make a reaction. You respond. It lets you do more than you ever thought was possible. I started skiing after my injury. You can see the picture up there on your right. I'm a guy with no legs. I was like, I'll go up the mountain. It'll be fun, get on the snow. I never would imagine that now I'm a better skier than I ever was with legs. I'll ski anything on a mountain. I'll do trees, jump off things, and generally, again, do stupid things. But I never would have done that. This last week, I spent some time up in Tofino, surfing, something I'd never done with legs. No idea what that's like. I have no idea how to surf with legs. I finished a triathlon. I've finished multiple triathlons. I did one in New York. Now, it's not easy, and it's not always a success. I did New York City Triathlon last year. I came last. And when I mean last, I came dead last. NYPD was behind me, picking up the cones as I was finishing the course. I struggled every step. I had heat stroke. I was dehydrated, everything. But I wanted to finish. I wanted to take the next step to get to that finish line. That's how I wanted to react. I didn't want to let the fact that I'm the guy with no legs define how I was going to live my life. I wanted to be the one in charge. I've had the privilege of talking to Jim Lair, who's a sports psychologist out of Florida recently. He trains and talks the mental game for professional golfers and tennis players, and he said, the greatest success only comes out of greatest challenge. If you meet your challenges, you say whatever happens in your life, whether it's the worst day possible, whether it's the picture on your left there, you respond to that, you end up doing the things on your left, on my left, your right. The reaction to great challenge is great things. Life is going to happen, no matter what. Your life's going to happen. Things are going to change. I'm doing more now with no legs than I ever would with legs. I get to teach other people how to ski. I get to work with other veterans. I get to talk in places like this. I get to meet people on a beach as a surfboard, carry my surfboard. I get to meet people on a chairlift and ski with them, and they're asking, hey, what's that contraption? What are you doing? I get to share my story with other people around the country, the world, things I never would have done. So yes, the worst day of my life, by any measure, happened December 16, 2010. In turn, it's actually the best day of my life. You heard about it, whether it's the gift of a brain tumor, right? The gift for me was losing my legs. It sounds so counterintuitive, right? Because people around me taught me, starting from day as a student here, or throughout my life, whether it was in the Marine Corps, my parents, family, friends around me, said it's not what happens to you, it's how you react. Your life is going to happen. Things are going to be outside of your control. How you respond to them is different. You woke up tomorrow, you decide how you react to the world you wake up in. For that, if it's as extreme as losing your legs, then you respond just as extremely in the positive, and you make one step and go further. If it's simple things like getting a cold and it's throwing you off, or so you're sick for a rugby game, or you're traveling somewhere and the car breaks down. If it's simple things, it happens. Deal with it. It's done. You can't go back and change it. Unless anybody here's invented a time machine, in that case, this talk isn't for you. But the rest of you, everybody, including myself, I just have to remember that it's how you react, it's how you respond, not what happens to you. Life happens. Wake up tomorrow and respond positively. Thank you.